And now it's Boomer Life. Lifestyle ideas designed to make your life more engaging, meaningful, and complete. Celebrating the baby boomer generation. This is Boomer Life.
Welcome back to Boomer Life on AM 650. I'm your host, Simone Graywall. We've been talking about the ins and outs of addiction. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction or dependency issues, in studio with us, an expert, it's Jason Spies, the Executive Director and Interventionist at LDR Holistic Wellness Center. And it's always so great to have you in, Jason, because it's such informative, educative information. It's always great.
Thank you.
And more details, of course, at holisticdrugrehab.org. But let's talk a little bit about some of the benefits of an intervention for a family.
And again, this is another area where I really get excited. I have families come to me in generally a pretty meltdown state, and they've lost hope, they're frustrated, they're exhausted. This is where I really like to focus my attention on, because there is a solution out there for you. If you're listening today, please don't lose hope. Some of the benefits is obviously developing a new operating standard within the family dynamics, and let me give you some examples of that. Recreating healthy boundaries, focusing on the solution and not the problem, not buying into the chaos, and paying attention to the members of the family that are making positive contributions. We need to shift focus on what's working, and generally what we focus on is what becomes in front of us. So if we're focusing on the solution, that's what we find. If we're focusing on the problem, we're always going to find the problem. So we really like to help refocus the family.
Okay. And why is it that some families simply can't conduct their own interventions? What are some of the drawbacks and potential hazards of that?
Could I go back actually to, I just remembered a couple other milestones that maybe I'd like to pay attention to. What I want to tell families is, as well is give yourself the freedom to basically let go of the problem. Many times people have assumed responsibility of the problems for many reasons. Generally, this is my role as a husband, this is my role as a mother, it's my role as a parent or a partner. And I can't tell you the number of times that I've heard a parent say to me that there's no way I'll ever let my son or daughter live on the streets. And so they've really assumed this role. So give yourself permission to work with a professional and not assume that responsibility. As well as, successful family milestones is identifying the part that they play within the addiction cycle, and defining what will and will not be tolerated. It's real clarity, and this is very empowering stuff when we really start to get the answers to what the solution looks like. Of course, writing a letter of impact, many people see that on the TV show, and that really helps a family to become very clear on what what they're doing in terms of moving forward to the individual.
Because sometimes when we speak directly from the heart, and we can blurt out things that we don't necessarily mean. And when you've taken the time to write a letter,
it
I
becomes
can just
clear.
see. Yeah, exactly.
And this is another thing that happens in a professionally conducted intervention, is that it's not an individual now pulling people behind them to try and get to the solution. Now we've educated the family. They become unanimous in this front. Everybody is invested in the solution. It becomes, it's like an old African proverb, when you can break one stick, but if you put many together and try and break it, it becomes almost impossible. So this is the family getting together and really focusing on a solution.
So back to this question about why couldn't families simply conduct their own intervention? So what are some drawbacks and potential hazards if you're thinking about, I can do this on our own, we can all get together and do it just like the TV show?
You know what, I always say to families, hey, if this is something you feel that you can do, I always caution them. Please make sure that you're well informed, well educated. I always say please inform a professional, get some guidance. But here are some of the potential drawbacks and hazards that family-led interventions and what I've witnessed. First, families seldom recognize their part. And so this becomes that pointing the finger kind of party. Generally, family-led interventions are almost kind of consequence motivated and usually become very emotional. Families and the addicts engage in this kind of toxic exchange of pointing a finger, which generally results in, who's got the biggest claimed injury. Well, you hurt me doing this. Well, if you didn't do that, so it gets to this place of just throwing the biggest stone at the fort, right? And nobody wins. It falls apart. It becomes another point in the continuum where this is a failure. Mm-hmm. How frustrating. The addict generally has, at this point, figured out how to easily capsize any kind of intervention mm-hmm. through either manipulation, guilt, shame, or intimidating, right? So when you have somebody that's kind of become a bit of a professional in capsizing the boat, families a lot of times can't navigate around the shore, if you will. Playing on the fears of the families. We hear this a lot where families have tried to intervene and have an intervention, and I'm just going to go kill myself. Or if you really knew what I was going through, you would understand. You obviously don't love me. Those types of things where you're never going to see the grandchildren again. I can't believe you're bringing this up.
Yeah.
So there's these motivators that they'll use, and those are very fearful for families to go through. Also, generally family-led interventions are not solution focused, and they become what I call a convincing party.
Okay.
This is where we're trying to convince that person to go from A to B. And so when me sitting there being that person, I'm now being told what to do instead of me making the decision and getting the power behind taking accountability for my problem. Families are generally trying to push towards that, and so then there becomes this resistance model, right? Mm-hmm. So. And then, of course, this is the reason why surgeons don't operate on other family members, and psychologists don't counsel their own families. It's clearly understood in the professional community that we lack the, emotional objectivity and the ability to make effective choices. So, parachute. I like this term. Parachute a professional in. What can it cost you other than a bit of time and some resources, and hopefully a very clear path out of what they've been struggling with?
Exactly. So what does a successful intervention look like?
In terms of a process, I invite people, because of the time and the limitations that I have today, to really take a look at our intervention model. It's, I believe, one of the most wide spectrum. We've really taken the time. We don't just fly in, grab the addict, and off we go, because we don't see that as the problem.
No.
We really spend a lot of time in consulting with the family, having conference calls, making sure everybody's in alignment. And then we go in and we actually spend, a whole day educating the family on, what is this that we're dealing with and what does the solution look like. That's our service. I believe in offering a service primarily to the family and then working with the addict. That way, they're leaving, they really have the solution at their fingertips and they know what it looks like. It's not, the addict's gone to treatment now, in terms of an intervention, just flying in, taking them to a treatment center. Now, 2 days later, they've left.
Exactly.
Where's the family left?
Yeah.
They don't have the tools or the resources. We believe in giving the tools and the resources to the family so that we can have long-term success.
And there's obviously so many families out there who are going through these tough times. Why don't you think that they're reaching out for help?
I think that there's been a lot of families out there that possibly don't know the resources, and they need to talk to a professional. And I really encourage them to give us a call. We're very accessible. We're here to talk to families. It doesn't cost you anything to give us a call and start having these conversations and to really help you start to understand what a professional process looks like.
Okay. Again, if you're just joining us in studio, this is Boomer Life on AM 650 with Simone Graywall. We've been chatting about the ins and outs of addiction. If you or someone you know that is struggling with addiction or dependency issues, in studio with us, we've been talking to Jason Spies, the Executive Director and Interventionist at LDR Holistic Wellness Center. The website is holisticdrugrehab.org. So what's something you can leave with somebody who's listening today and thinking about themselves getting help or reaching out to a family member? What is the first thing they should be doing?
Follow your gut. Understand that you're not alone, that there is professional help out there for you, that arranging these types of services is generally a very simple process, and just starting to make a call. It doesn't mean that you have to be committed to us. Just at least calling us. We're very open, very transparent. Many services out there are. And, understand that if you're starting to have even these questions, most people don't wake up in the morning and say, I wonder if we should get an intervention for our loved one. Generally, there is quite a bit of information. They just haven't been able to take a look at it from 50,000 feet above and really see all the different dynamics. So if you're having these questions, please do yourself the favor of at least talking to a professional and starting to find out if there's any validity behind this.
Thank you so much for joining us again, Jason. Yeah. Always great to have you in studio. Again, Jason Spies is the Executive Director and Interventionist at LDR Holistic Wellness Center. If you do want more information, holisticdrugrehab.org is the website, and Jason would love to help you out and answer any questions you have, so you can reach him through the website.
Absolutely.
Again, thank you for joining us today on Boomer Life on AM 650.